a simple list is a collection of items. It doesn't have to be numbers. It can be also strings. It can be other objects. It could be other arrays as well. So this would be called a list. And the lists, of course, got different type of comments one can use. And I did write them in the notepad. So if you guys recall, I'll comment this one out for now. If you guys recall, to call a particular element of the list, we have to go by the index. And the index goes like the first element is index 0. The second element is index 1. So if we want to see that, obviously we have to use this command we had. So the element 0 of the list is 1. I'll just write it nicely. In 0 of this.
One quick question. What is the difference between squared brackets and normal brackets? Does that have anything to do?
Yeah, the thing is, when defining a list, we use a square bracket. List or array, I guess, if one uses NumPy arrays. But also you could declare something like that. And if you use, because you will see it eventually, something like that. And then this is called a tuple. There's a small difference between tuples and standard lists. Tuples are immutable. So basically, they are ordered lists according to definitions that are not changeable. So you cannot suddenly decide, I'm going to remove this element and change it to something else. And well, there are some advantages of using tuples, meaning supposedly in memory they work a lot faster because you cannot change them, so they just take given amount of space. Whereas a list like this, well, the program is foreseeing that it will change, something will change, so it's written differently and it's going to be written over in different sections of memory, I guess, if it's but I believe it should be having reserved enough space for that. So basically, these are immutable, meaning it's good for storing data that do not change. And for now, we'll just concentrate on the lists. And back to the square brackets and round brackets, that, well, all depends on the functions we're using. For example, print is a function, and the functions always have a round bracket around them. So this function is just printing things to the terminal. And this square bracket over here is referring to an element of this list. And also the square brackets are meant for defining lists. So over here we have one square bracket, and inside we have another square bracket, because another list is an element of our bigger list. And this list being just 2 zeros. So yeah, when referring to elements of a list or a string, then we would use square brackets when referring to a concrete element. But it doesn't stop there. We can also print multiple elements of a list at the same time. So elements of list 1, 2, 3. So if I write like this, I can write like that, this way. It would, okay, I didn't close something. it would print a part of the list I have. Like, as you guys can see, elements of list 1 to 3 prints elements 1 2 3, meaning 0, it starts from this character. This is index 1, index 2, and this is index 3. But the thing is, it's just not taking this into account. And that's why it's just printing 1 2 3. It's, well, the best way of finding out how this exactly works, like when you take a multiple choice of different items from a list, is, well, to do it yourself. So if one wants to aim for the car, well, thankfully I just ordered it nicely, so it will be a bit easier, because I know here is index 5, so this starts from index 6, right? So I'm gonna print list starting from index 6 up to index 7, and it should print the car. Well, that's what I expected. But as we can see, it prints it out as a list itself. So to get to this string called car, one would have to go inside the list and take the first element. But, well, you guys see it later when doing some programs, when we are dealing with arrays and lists, and one such program will come soon. But I don't think we're going to select several elements. When we select several elements, it's just going to give an array. So if we want to read that value, we have to like enter into this array again by writing another index to get the concrete value. So in case of this list element 1 to 3, we have these elements 1 to 3, but for example, we want to, from this shortened list, let's say we saved it somewhere, we want to access number 2 position. So again, we go with indexes 0, 1, 2. And this way, we were able to access this concrete element of the array. It's a bit complicated when listening to the explanation. The best way to do it is just to try it yourself. We will try playing a bit with arrays once we get to the task, but first we need to learn the tools for completing the task. There will be one element in the task when it will ask the user to write the piece of the program that will remember whatever the choice was in the program. So to make it happen, the easiest way is to make a new list. And the way to add to the first 3 spots some element to the list is using the command append. Well, in this case, I guess the list is not defined. So what we do, we can just define it this way. It's an empty list. And this way we can add a new item to the list by using the command append. And we can use this command several times, or we can go the easy way. Instead of appending, if we got all the elements we want to introduce into this list, we just define the whole list as equals to and write all the data in. But usually, if we're operating in a loop and it just goes one element at a time, then using the append command will be nicer. So let's just use it several times. New item 2, 3, 1, and we can just print it out to see what the new list is. As we can see, it did add them according to the sequence we added the items. So this one went first, this one went second, this one went third. Well, nothing fancy so far, but that's okay. Now, there is an option. For example, let's just call this one 4. So we have this one space here. This whole list got the items, but for some reason we want to insert something between element 2 and a 4. So to do that, because not always we want to add to the end of the list, like the append command does. Add an item to the end of the list. So sometimes we want to add an item in a given position. So if I type this and I type new item 3, let's see what happens. As you guys see, it actually managed to add it exactly where I wanted it, just before the new item 4. Over here, I used an index, I mean the position basically, where it should be, this new item I want to insert. And that indicated like the second index, that means the third element, 1, 2, 3, and it was added as the third element. Continuing on this about this info about lists, there's just 2 more comments, and well, they kind of will be useful. For example, we don't need the first item anymore, because let's say if we had a basket of different things we want to buy, and we decided that, well, we don't want the apple or the new item 1 in this case. So we can just remove it. And what we need to do is just type what we do not want in the list. And then we get to print it, and we can see previously over here it was printed with all the items we added, but after removing the item, the new list already appeared without this one item. Quite often it happens that we don't want to like remove a concrete item, we just want to remove the last one. So there's also this useful comment for that, and it's called pop. You can pop any item of the list, but if you call it without any index, it will just pop the last item. But there is more to this command, because today we're going to talk about functions. We started the functions last week. No, not last week. It was 2 weeks ago. There was a break last week. Most of these functions, they don't have any return value. And what's a return value? Like when calling a print function and putting, for example, length value will return something, will return the length of the new list. So obviously this length function does have some return. But for example, nothing comes to my mind at the moment. Okay, well, basically we did use append, right? So if I use the append comment for whatever reason and add whatever at the end, it will not print anything. As you guys see, it printed none, because this function is not supposed to be giving anything. It's just a command to add something to the list. So in this case, this function does not have any return because it doesn't need it. But if we use the pop command over here, then we can see that it actually got some kind of return. It just returns the item it removed from the list. We called pop 2 times. Over here, it did have a return, but there was no way to visualize it because we never did print. Over here, we did print, so we were able to visualize this operation. So we had a list of item 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we removed item 1. So we were left with new item 2, 3, and 4. And over here, I called the new list pop. And obviously we didn't see the result. And over here, I called the pop command again, but this time I asked it to show what it's popping from the list. And it printed, it popped new item 3 because the new item 4 was already popped by this command. I mean, removed. Removes last item on the list. New item 4. And this one does the same. Removes and prints. So if everything is right, then we're just left with new item 2 that was never removed from the list. One can also, of course, pop an item at position 0. Then it just removes a given index. So in this case, we'd be left with new item 3. But yeah, the advantage of this function is it's a bit faster than just writing the whole name of the item to remove. Faster to write for us, at least. Okay, so that's most of the material pertaining the lists, at least for now. If you guys want to read a bit more about the lists, here we have in W3 Schools different materials on lists. Well, there is this looping method over lists of different item of the lists. I think most of it we did cover. We did not cover the sort command. I mean, obviously, we can sort the items of the list. We can reverse sort it as well. So I think if we come upon some kind of a project that we need to do that, that's obviously when we want to use that. Also, there is this command over here. You can see the copy, it copies the list, because if we just type my list is equal this list, then the moment you change any element in this list, the my list is going to be exactly the same as this list, so it will change as well. So this way, copying it will make like independent copy. So that's also useful. And joining lists, obviously you just do some maths and joins, or just append works as well, I guess. At least with given elements of the list when iterating over it. Here we can see all the methods. Yeah, and we get the idea what they do. And of course, there's some exercises for different lists, for different parts of the Python. I guess if you guys want to test yourself, you can go to the Python exercises and just try to do some and see how it goes. There's some material we did not go through, but that doesn't stop you guys from learning also on your own. I'll maybe put it here. W3 Schools. Yeah, well, there will be this file in there. So I'll post it to Discord soon. And if you guys want, you can go ahead and just try the exercises when you have the time. It's very short. I mean, it's 90 type of guess the code things with hints if you don't know how to do it, but also you can learn from those examples, from those bits of code. And now back to this code over here. This one came from this Geek4Geeks website. if someone is interested in reading more about two-dimensional arrays, it will come in handy. At some point, we might be doing some two-dimensional arrays for, well, different reasons for the program, because looping over something 2 times over, it will give us more options for dealing with different type of data. Yes, and this is the link where I got this code. And well, it just makes an independent two-dimensional array with dimensions 5 on 5. As you guys can see, here are these round brackets, because they assigned basically this array of tuples was assigned to this 2 variables, rows and columns. If one wanted to make a 3-dimensional one could go like Z and adding another 5, and basically the code will also work even without using the Z, because the another 5 will be just assigned to Z. Doesn't matter for now. So I'll save these lists. I'll put them here. And the next one, I'd like to move to the tasks that we could do. You wrote a bit with step by step how to build this well, somewhat simple application for now, but it can get as complicated as we want it to be. So basically the idea is to follow the text written and just writing this short code for now, and continuing and adding more elements. And in the end, obviously, these spaces will be like in the way. So one can, after finishing some part of the code, to just delete it. I'll also share the task, but before we continue, for the task, do you guys have any questions? Let me check the chat. I did not open it, sorry. Okay, new list insert tooltip. Let me try it, because I did not see that. I quite often skip these tooltips. Well, it's just it's not written the best way when you look at it, like supports index object any none. It's, I guess this whole thing requires some studying to be able to read it comfortably. But the thing one needs to know about this is basically in W3 schools, it just asks about the index of the thing you want to insert, but I think it might work without the index. If I'm reading it right, it just supports index. But then again, because it's in blue, I wonder, does it require it? Well, the best way is just to try it. Yeah, well, it's expected 2 arguments and got 1. So obviously there needs to be 2 arguments. So no bypassing that. Object any. So that means it can be anything. It can be like a whole array of things, and it still works. Let's just take it back to what it was. Yeah, well, sort the sort order is both alphabetical and it's also with numbers. So let's go with these cars that we had. Where was it? Reviews. Because they are not in any order. I'll copy this list. I'll paste it down here. Our best way to see what the sort command does is just to try it. And let's see what it does. Where am I? None. Yes, well, that might be a problem because we printed, again, a function that did not give any return. So obviously, it is all nice, but if we want to see the result, then we need to print the list of cars again. And as you can see, it did arrange it according to alphabet. But also the sort command can sort it according to numbers. The question is, what will it sort first after? So if I have some random numbers and then I have some words and colors, and also let's have the green, and if we just sort it, what do we get? The best way is obviously to find out. What did I do? Is not supported, line 41. Okay. As we can see, it doesn't like the lists to be sorted between integers and strings. So if we make all the numbers strings, then it won't mind sorting it. And then we have it. It did manage to sort it somehow. Numbers first and then the alphabet. Okay, do you guys have some questions, some doubts? I mean, we did go a bit fast over this. We did this from the review. We did it before. The list thing is like quite new, but we'll get to test some of this append in the coming program. As for calling from the index, I believe you guys remember that. As for the other comments, hopefully I'll come up with some tasks, if not this week, next week, that we are able to practice all of these comments so we can feel quite comfortable using our lists and arrays. I found this one quite nice, this pop. Okay. Yeah, well, I said before or after 40. Let's check. 8, 40. Obviously 40 is before 8. Yeah, it takes the first character. It doesn't care about the zeros behind. That's at least that's this sort comment. There's other ways of sorting these things, but this is a string. One needs to notice. So they are having different rules. So if we copy the whole thing of numbers, and here we have 1 whatever 47 8, and when we sort that one, then I think it will be as it should be. Yes, it sorted it well. As a string, it doesn't sort well, but as it goes with numbers, it sorts them from the smallest to the biggest. Unless we want to have the reverse order, then There was this on W3 Schools material on. Where was it? Sort list. There we have it reversed through. And now we have the opposite order.